Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the place where we discuss all things USMNT y la selección mexicana. My name is Adrian. Joining me once again, my co-host and Tocayo, Adrian. Adrian, what's good, brother?
Hey, what's up, dude? With all these balloons coming out of my freaking camera every single time. But no, having a good time over here Sunday. We're watching the Tigres game. They're winning 1-0. I think Cordoba got a red card. Um, but yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, Saturday, and it's
Yeah.
Cordoba's, probably his braids that caused him to freaking get a red card. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I don't know why he's doing that, dude. He looks nasty.
yeah, dude, I don't know. He's midlife crisis. But yeah, the Eagles are currently up 1-0 against Toluca here on Saturday evening. But yeah, man, let's get into the topic here. Obviously, today we're going to be discussing Mexico's striker slash forward options. El Tri's forwards going into this summer, going into Copaamerica, going into Nations League, are maybe not as hot as they have been in previous years. Not firing as as frequently as we've seen them before.
Mhm.
So, question for today is: El Tri lacking punch on the front line? Adrian, why don't you kind of give us a resumen, a summary of how El Tri's forward options did last year in 2023 for Mexico?
Sure. So for this analysis that I put together really quickly, I only looked at the all the games in 2023, right? So I'm not taking into consideration anything before that or anything that has happened this year so far. I don't think anything has happened this year. Uh, but anyways, when you looked at all of the players that I guess were eligible for Mexico or played with Mexico last year and scored, we have three, four, six, nine total of forwards. Now, what I mean forward is not only strikers but also wingers, central forwards. It doesn't have to be like a striker specifically. And we're looking at urielantuna, Raul Jimenez, Roberto de la Rosa, Orbelín Pineda, Henry Martin, Santi Gimenez, Chino Huerta, Lozano, and Memorte Martinez. So those are the nine strikers that score, or nine forwards that score with Mexico. Can you guess who's the top scorer?
It's probably going to blow our minds, but before we guess the top score, Mexico had 19 different goal scorers last year, and
Yes.
from those 19, nine were forwards, right? So
Mhm.
I don't know, man. Who was a top scorer last year? I think we kind of know who it is, but go ahead.
Well, I do know who it is. It's one of my favorites. As you can tell, if you've been watching our episodes, it's actually urielantuna. He's tied with Raul Jimenez for goals per player. And yeah, when I was doing this, I had the feeling that I was gonna be surprised, but I wasn't expecting urielantuna to be the top scorer for Mexico. Uh, yeah, I mean, I give him kudos. And the last time, I think we did something similar to this that we were looking at Mexico's offensive options. I think, um, but he actually had a decent 2023 with Mexico, with the exception of some of those matches. For example, the 3-0 against United States in the previous uh, Nations League semifinal. But yeah, Aurel Antuna, top scorer for Mexico, tied with Raul Jimenez. Out of those four from Raul Jimenez, I believe three of them are penalties. So it's a little deceiving for those who say that Raul Jimenez is back or whatever. He might be having a decent season with Fulham so far, but I don't think he's back for Mexico in any way. Um, and then if we go down the pecking order, right? If you think of all the available strikers or forwards for Mexico, next to Raul Jimenez, you have Santi and Henry Martin, who have two each, right? So I don't know. This paints the picture of Mexico not having a, I guess the Mexican available strikers are not having a good, or didn't have a good 2023 with Mexico. If you look at El Bote's stats for last year, he did great with Feyenoord. I think Henry Martin also scored like 20 goals, 20 something goals with America. So they are on fire with their clubs, but they're not taking those performances with them whenever they get called up for Mexico.
Yeah, going back to Raul Jimenez, who you mentioned earlier, a couple seconds ago. He has 5 goals in 19 games for Fulham so far this temporada this season. He obviously the Premier League is, it's a different beast, right? It's in the Premier
Hmm.
League. I mean, 5 goals is not nothing shabby for a 33-year-old, 32-year-old forward, striker. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he's back, at least not for Mexico. If you say 3 of those 4 goals were penalties, I mean that's, like you said, deceiving. But
Yes.
going back into somebody kind of on the opposite end of that, who last year was doing very very well for his club, is kind of cooled off, Santi Gimenez. Um, do you think now that we're going into March in the Nations League, where Mexico has to win to advance to the final, is Santi Gimenez the guy you go to, even though he's kind of cooled off, or do you trust, in some other formation with urielantuna maybe playing as a false nine, or Quiñones? How do you think he proceeds?
I mean, I think that regardless of, I personally, so here's my personal take. I think that in football in general, it's about the current moment, right? About the present. So I'm always in favor of putting those players who have the best present today. So if we go by that logic, right, nor Raul Jimenez or Bebote should be starting. It should be someone else, like maybe Julian Quiñones, or any other striker who's on fire with their club or has a strong present. But I don't think Mexico has the luxury to say that or to follow that specific pattern. I think that it's time for us to put El Bebote as the number one choice for Mexico. I think it's only bound to happen. I don't see how Raul Jimenez can actually be in great shape or fit or have like astounding performances between now and Copa America and as well as 2026. If we really want El Bote to get used to of the pressure we're playing with Mexico and becoming that striker that we really need, I think it's time for him to start feeling that pressure. Start for him to honing his skills and just getting hammered with all the questioning and doubts and other criticisms, feedback, whatever you want to call it, that he's gonna get by just being a starter choice for Mexico. I don't see how he wouldn't benefit from being in a challenging position.
Yeah, I mean, Santi Gimenez, when we look at his last 5 matches, he has 1 goal in 5 games. Raul Alonso Jimenez has 0 goals in the last 5 matches for Fulham. Um, Adrian, man, as we analyze this forward situation, who are other options that Jimmy has, or who are delanteros that he's called up, previously, that may be able to fight their way in there if he doesn't trust Santi Gimenez or Raul Jimenez as forward?
Yeah. So when I was, when I was doing this exercise and I was looking at, all the available options, I don't want to say that they are very scarce to begin with. But let's look at the list of offensive players. And when I say offensive, I mean, as I said, wingers, central forwards, strikers, anything that, is supposed to be on the front line of Mexico. Um, let's look at the list that he called up for this 60 roster for CONCACAF Nations League, right? So we have Raul Jimenez, Santi Gimenez, urielantuna, Julian Quiñones, Henry Martin, Cesar Huerta, Irving Lozano, Alexis Vega, Ociel Herrera, Memote Martinez, Marcelo Flores, and Edgar Lopez, El Gacelo Lopez from Toluca. Um, like if you go down this list, right, the only option that I think is actually feasible right now or that makes sense to me is Julian Quiñones. And we all know that Julian Quiñones isn't necessarily a strong striker. I think he's a well-rounded offensive player in the sense that he can play on the wings, he can play as a nine if you need to, but he's best as, not necessarily the go-to striker. He was great with Julio Furch at Atlas when Julio Furch was attracting all the attention and setting the passes from all those break balls that they make from from the defense all the way to the offensive. He kind of sort of plays the same way with America whenever Henry Martin is around. Um, and so I think if that is the case, if Jimmy Lozano is going to be essentially marrying him or marrying himself to Henry Martin, Julian Quiñones might be the best option out of Raul Jimenez and Santi Gimenez. But other than that, maybe you want to say Guillermo Martinez El Memote, who right now is playing for Pumas, but he isn't necessarily on fire. He is perhaps maybe the best Mexican striker right now in Liga MX. But other than that, man, I mean, if you look at the pool, um, Chucky Lozano is not a strong number nine. He's not a strong striker. Marcelo Flores, I don't even know why he's calling out Marcelo Flores. He's not. I mean, he's not having a great performance with Tigres, and the fact that he's calling Edgar El Gacelo Lopez, like I don't have anything against Gacelo Lopez. He is a great player for Toluca standards, right? But if you really wanna put Raul Jimenez and Bebote and Henry Martin in a position that they feel that their role in el tri or their spot for Mexico is up for grabs, you don't really have anyone else that would challenge that spot, right? Uh, and
Yeah.
that's the other thing is exactly. I also think that there's a specific concept or additional thing that they know there Mexico doesn't have any other options. Like there aren't any other available strikers that are currently within the radar of Jimmy Lozano.
Yeah, they know that their spot is safe, and there's no pressure on them, I guess, right?
No. Mm-mm.
We know that Santi Gimenez is a fan favorite, rightfully so, for all the things he's accomplished at Feyenoord. But he's yet to produce it for eltri, and
Mm-hmm.
I think as much as fans love him, I think the pressure just grows, aumenta on him as he
Mm-hmm.
starts progressing in his career for eltri. You brought up Memote Martinez. I think he is probably the best in line right now. I think he's had 4 goals so far this clausura, and
Mm-hmm.
he's probably, like you said, Mexico's in form striker from ligamx.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else, Ociel Herrera, Alexis Vega, Adrian Lozano, like you mentioned, they're all more so either out of form or have no reason to be called up like Alexis Vega, or they play wingers, right? They're primarily
Yes.
wingers. Cesar
Uh-huh.
Huerta, igual, urielantuna. So if you really just boil down to number 9, like actual number 9, we're talking what 3-4 players: Raul Jimenez, Santi Gimenez, Memote. Is that it
Yeah.
at this point? And
Eh,
Henry Martin.
That's pretty much it. I mean, other than that, you can probably have Angel Sepulveda who plays for Cruz Azul, but he's not. I mean, he's a number nine. He's a striker, but I don't think he is having a better performance at Cruz Azul than Memote Martinez, right? Um, and you don't really need to. I mean, here's the situation: is I think El Jimmy has to think of a different way to approach his offensive game, just because of how Mexican strikers are currently playing, or the current fit, or, I guess form, not fitness, their current form. And if you start looking into a number of false nine, number false nine, you probably have other options that might be a good solution for this conundrum, right? You can have Ociel Herrera, who with Tigres doesn't necessarily play as a false number nine, but he always comes from behind the striker and he's always in the box to make a finish. And I personally think that Ociel Herrera is kind of deceiving because he has a high rate on, I guess, participations on goals per match, but it doesn't really is a good reflection of his performance on each match, right? He doesn't have that many minutes or a lot of minutes with Tigres, but the minutes that he has are normally effective. So it's one of those situations where I don't think Ociel Herrera is a 90-minute solution for this specific problem that Jimmy has.
So if you're Jimmy and you have to think outside the box now, is there anybody in Liga MX or playing extranjero that you would call up here? Maybe somebody. Is there anybody that you could start looking at that, like Quiñones, wasn't born in Mexico but is a naturalizado now, that could come play for el Tri?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of interesting options in Mexico, in Liga MX specifically. I've said before, I don't. For me, I don't. It's not a problem. I don't think it's a big deal to use naturalizados or I guess not born Mexicans to play for El Tri. And there's two names that I think are young players who have some sort of brilliant or have shown uh, to be great players for Liga MX, right? And at least they can probably close that gap of not having available strikers. The two ones that I'm talking about actually play in Futbol Regio, which is Germán Berterame for Monterrey and Nico Ibanez for Tigres. We all know that Nico Ibanez is essentially Gignac's bench right now, but whenever Gignac is not around due to injury or suspension or whatever the case may be, Nico Ibanez has actually shown that he's a valuable player. He can assist, he can score. He also can provide a lot of coverage on the front if you need to add pressure to the first lines against your opposition. So I think it's a well-rounded striker that Mexico can actually tap in because he's not going to get called up by Argentina. I mean, there's just no way he can get a call from what's Argentina's coach, Scaloni. I don't think
Yeah.
it just doesn't make sense, right? There's a long list of players ahead of him, and the other one is Germán Berterame, who maybe this specific season with Monterrey hasn't been the greatest. He has only scored 2 goals, I believe. I don't know how many assists, but he has the condition and the athleticism that a lot of the Mexican strikers lack. He is fast, he's strong, he's good with his feet. He's also kind of a good finisher, and he can also play as a winger. So those are 2 players in Liga MX that are not Mexican born, but can be eligible in the next few months.
Berterame, as we know, was the Golden Boot back in Apertura 2021. So we know
Mm-hmm.
he definitely can score. Like you said, he's had to share the spotlight with Brandon Vasquez this season,
Mm-hmm.
which guy's kind of maybe reduced his goal output. But we know what he can do for Futbol Club Monterrey. So
And
he definitely is one to look for. And real quick, before you go real quick, Nico Ibanez might be a good short-term solution, but I don't think he's one for the long term just because he's what,
yeah,
30 almost already?
I think he's 28, isn't he? I think he's like 28,
Let me
29,
see.
something like that.
Yeah, he's 29.
Um,
You're right.
mhm.
He'll be 30
So,
this year.
but yeah, and I was gonna say Nico Ibanez was the top scorer year long. I think between 2021 and 2022, or 2022 and 2023, something like that. But he was a Golden Boot before he went to Tigres, and then uh, I think at Tigres he even scored. He maybe scored like 5 or 6 goals, but those were enough to be the top scorer year wise for Liga MX.
Yeah, Nico Bañez was the top scorer Apertura 2022 when he was still with Pachuca. So yeah, I mean all productive players, but like we said, will they? I mean, is none of them are Mexicans, right? They haven't begun that process.
I believe. I believe both of them are in the process of getting
Oh, are they?
naturalized. If I'm
Okay.
Yes, exactly. I know both of them are getting the process. I know last season, they showed up a list of which foreign players are, I guess, on the edge of being considered or being fully naturalized. Because I think you have to spend 5 years in Mexico before you can start that process. And I believe both of them got that 5 year mark either late last year or early this year, right? So they are in the midst of that. Um, but there are other options out there who aren't necessarily, naturalized players.
Yeah, who is that guy that plays in Argentina? Um,
Uh,
the
that is,
youngster.
yeah, that is actually a very good option. His name is Luca Martinez Dupuy.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, before this season of Liga MX started, he was getting a lot of attention because it looked like Chivas wanted to buy him. Just like they also brought back Theon Wilke, who was a I think he's like half Belgian or half something with Mexican. He was playing at the under 18s or under 20s in Cercle Bruges in Belgium. Nothing really came out of him, and he came back to Chivas. But Luca Martinez Dupuy is a very interesting option. Right now, he's playing for Rosario Central. He actually has won one, I think, Copa de la Liga in Argentina, if I'm not mistaken. And he's a sub 23, under 23, sorry, not sub 23, and I think under 21 as well, player for Mexico. Very interesting player. He is not necessarily a starting 11 for Rosario Central, but he's one of those players that we can take advantage of. I don't think Argentina is going to look at him in any way, and El Jimmylozano and this other freaking guy from Pumas. What was his name? He was also the coach, and now he's the director of youth development in eltri. Andres Lilini. They should be doing more scouting on, at least on him. I think it's an interesting option. What else do you have to lose, man? I mean, you don't have anyone else available.
Yeah, he is one that has made since 2023 five appearances for the U23 selección nacional eltri, and scored 2 goals. So I think he's definitely on the radar. But again, he hasn't made that jump to the senior team, right? So maybe
Hmm.
this is the year he makes that jump.
Hopefully.
Yeah, he scored 10 goals and 65 appearances for Rosario Central there in Liga Argentina. So yeah, I mean another good option there. Is there anybody else you think Jimmy should look
There
at here?
are there are two other players that I also want to mention. The first one is Alejandro Viniegra, if I'm not mistaken. He plays right now for Red Bull Bragantino, which I I'm not sure if they are on Serie B in Brazil or they just got recently promoted to Serie A. But he plays for that Red Bull team in Brazil. Also, interesting player. He's more of a winger rather than a central forward, but it's another option. Someone out there playing anywhere else that is in Liga MX. So I think that's commendable. And the last one that I also want to mention, he plays for MLS. And now you and I, we don't necessarily agree that MLS is better than Liga MX. We think Liga MX is still slightly better than MLS. But Christian Torres from LAFC is also a very interesting option. He makes appearances with LAFC every now and then. I think he's only 19 years old, so he's still very much in development, but he's one of those players that the U19, U20 Mexican team is closely following. He is also more of a right wing rather than a striker. But man, at this point in time, if you look at the list of available offensive players for Mexico, we're gonna be in the situation on every single side of the forward side, part of Mexico, which is we're gonna be losing. Like our wingers are not necessarily very hot right now anywhere. So why not start looking at all those players out there for those additional spots as well?
Yeah, I was going to say this doesn't seem like a situation that has a quick short-term fix. All
No.
these guys are long-term
Hmm.
implementations that are going to be there for the long term. They're not going to come in and
Yeah.
automatically dominate. Um, what we need right now for Mexico is for Raul Jimenez or Santi Gimenez or Henry Martin to get back up to how they were before, I guess the last year, right? I mean, because right now
Hmm.
all three of them are kind of fizzled out. Those are the ones of the present that we kind of need to step it up. But definitely not bad to be looking into the future and looking at these names and maybe like we said, Berterame or Nico Ibanez can come in and maybe be a quick short term fix. Quinones as well. But yeah, I mean, all these right now. I think the situation is I wouldn't say dire, but it definitely is needs work. And maybe this March can be the turning point where we start seeing a couple goals from Santi or Raul or Henry Martin or somebody, and could be the turning point for their national team career at least for
Yes, sir.
2024. But a lot of good names here, man. A lot of names that to definitely look into, and that guy that you said that plays at Red Bull, they're actually in the third division, I think.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I'll take anything that moves right now.
Right. But I don't know if he's actually on loan. I think he's actually on loan in the Serie B to
Gotcha.
Lituano. I guess that's how you say it. A team in the Serie B. But yeah, definitely gotta look. Not just in Liga MX. Start looking South America. Start looking in Europe, like you said, like the
Hmm.
guy that played in Belgium. A lot of Mexican talent out there. Just gotta look for it. Adrian, man, as we wrap up this episode, brother, where can our listeners find us, dude?
Dude, you can always find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. You can also find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast on. Last but not least, follow us on Instagram. We post stuff every now and then. We're so close to the 500 subscribers, so your like is very important. Please subscribe. Help us to reach out all the cause out there.
Yeah, help us to get to 500 subs. We've been growing here with you guys, so we like you know to keep growing with our PPG community here, our family here. So yeah, like Adrian said, follow us on your preferred social media platform of choice, and let us know in the comments below. Was there anybody you think that should be kind of the number 9 for Mexico for these March Nations League matches? Who do you think should start? Raul Jimenez? Should it be Santi? Should he play a different formation where he maybe plays a false 9 with urielantuna or someone else? Let us know. Definitely, we like interacting with you guys in the comments. At the end, man, another good one with you, bro. I guess enjoy whatever's left of the Tigres match. Let me see how they're doing. They're still now it's 2-1 now to Toluca, so probably won't
Oh,
enjoy it anymore. But yeah, so I'll let you go, man. See ya.
that was a good one. Take it easy, man. Bye.
See you, man.